What's going on, guys? It's your boy Boxing Facts over Fiction. I need you guys to do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification icon for more videos like this. Chris Eubank Jr. always in the news. Chris Eubank Jr. we all know is a super middleweight contender. And Chris Eubank Jr. over the last couple of years, he's been criticized by a lot of his opponents. The reason Chris Eubank Jr. has been criticized is the fact that Chris Eubank Jr., they say that Chris Eubank Jr. didn't have a voice of his own. He was being easily led. But it seems like now Chris Eubank Jr. is getting more and more in control of his own career. He having less of his father influence on him. I was a fan of Chris Eubank Jr. when he was with Floyd Mayweather Sr. He was looking sharp in his fights. After he left Floyd Mayweather Sr., we seen what happened. He wasn't boxing no more. He was just brawling. Just pressure. And we seen what happened when you're not fundamentally focused and ready in the ring. He took a major loss in the tournament to George Groves. So he wasn't able to make it to the finals. So after that, he went to another trainer. And now Chris Eubank Jr. is in rumor to going over to Oakland, California and link up with guys like Virgil Hunter. Yeah, guys, it seems like Chris Eubank Jr. is thinking about linking up with Virgil Hunter to train out there in Oakland, California. And Virgil Hunter, he trains American right now. He's training American for the Terrence Crawford fight. We all know his most famous fighter is Andre Ward, an undefeated fighter who retired at the age of 32. I have no idea why Andre Ward retired so young. He has so much left in the tank, but he just retired. But he retired at the top of his game. He did everything he had to do in the sport of boxing. But I felt like the time he retired is when the light heavyweight division was getting stacked. And I would have loved to see him fight some of those young up-and-coming fighters at light heavyweight. But Chris Eubank Jr. is still on his search to find the best trainer. He thinks Virgil Hunter is going to be the guy to bring the best out of him. Who knows? Virgil Hunter could turn Chris Eubank Jr. into a star that he so desperately wants to be. It's very hard for Chris Eubank Jr. to win the very, very big fights. Chris Eubank Jr. For his last fight against James DeGill, he was trained by Nate Vasquez. But after the fight, Nate Vasquez says he hasn't heard from Chris Eubank Jr. He says Chris Eubank Jr. is bad for Chris Eubank Jr. to be jumping from trainer to trainer. Nate Vasquez says it's really bad for Chris Eubank Jr. to be what we call squad hopping in America. From one squad to another squad. Chris Eubank Jr. is just jumping from all over the place. But Nate Vasquez, he said, I helped him get the best win of his career. And pretty much he's saying this is how Chris Eubank Jr. is trying to repay me by leaving me for another trainer in Virgil Hunter. I wish Chris Eubank Jr. the best. Chris Eubank Jr. This was a good fight. Chris Eubank Jr. versus Arthur Abraham. Even though Arthur Abraham was he's older now, but Chris Eubank Jr. He showed a lot of combinations in this fight. He showed he wasn't afraid to mix it up. It was a very entertaining fight. I liked it. I think a much younger Arthur Abraham would have gave him more trouble. But it was a great fight, man. But Chris Eubank Jr., yeah, I think Chris Eubank Jr. is a good talent, but I just think he needs, in my opinion, what Chris Eubank Jr. needs to do is to go back to Floyd Mayweather Sr. That's the only time I've seen Chris Eubank Jr. at his best. Or he needs to stick with this Nate Vasquez guy. He can't keep jumping from trainer to trainer, man. It's not going to benefit him, just like Nate Vasquez said. But Nate Vasquez, he completely ripped Chris Eubank Jr., in my opinion. He pretty much said Chris Eubank Jr. isn't meant to be a boxer. Chris Eubank Jr. is just a pressure fighter. He can't be a fighter like a Roy Jones or Andre Ward. Some styles can't be changed. He felt like it wouldn't do Chris Eubank Jr. well if he tries to box. Yeah, so seems like Nate Vasquez is very, I don't want to say salty, but kind of angry that he gave Chris Eubank Jr. the best win of his career, and what Chris Eubank Jr. does is leave him for a different trainer. Nate Vasquez went on to say Chris Eubank Jr. needs a lot of work on his footwork. His style isn't meant to be a boxer, man. He said his main purpose was to work on his defense, his jab, and to get him to throw more combos. In my opinion, that was a great game plan. Chris Eubank Jr. needs to work on his jab. I think his defense is pretty good, though. I have seen Chris Eubank display really good defense when he's on the back foot, when he's moving backwards. I've seen him show a lot of good defense against a lot of pressure fighters. Chris Eubank Jr., he does have really good defense. So, in my opinion, from what I've seen Chris Eubank Jr. display some really good hand movement. His only problem is probably cutting off. His only problem, in my opinion, is cutting off the ring, making a fight look easier by just establishing your jab. Instead of making a fight look easy, he makes it look harder than what it should be. That's his biggest problem. He makes every fight look harder than what it should be. He can win a fight very easy if he just uses his jab, but he goes in there swinging for the fences every time. I mean, it's very entertaining to watch, but it's not going to work on everybody. So you're going to eventually have to sit down on your punches and box, you know, and then try to get the guy out of there. Show some not every single round, though. All those combinations are beautiful, I'm not going to lie. But when he gets careless, he swings for the fences, guys. He throws wild punches. But Nate Vasquez, he said if Chris Eubank Jr. is completely changed into a boxer instead of the pressure fighter that he is, it won't go well for him. I totally agree with that. I think Chris Eubank Jr. needs to continue to be a pressure fighter, but he just needs to be an effective pressure fighter like Errol Spence Jr. Establish that fundamental boxing skills, not a complete boxer like a one hand behind your back Roy Jones Jr. But he just needs to be effective with his pressure fighting. And that's what Nate Vasquez was doing. And I thought he was doing it very well. It showed in his last fight against James DeGale. This was also a good fight by Chris Eubank Jr. against Avni Yoderin. It was the World Boxing Super Series. Chris Eubank Jr. knocked this guy out in like 4 rounds. Avni Yoderin just had a great fight with Anthony Durrell. Nate Vasquez also went on to say, in a lot of cases, change is a good thing. Too much of it, though, or not enough stability can have a detrimental effect on the fighter. He said Chris Eubank Jr. is surrounded by enough wise old heads to know the difference. I honestly agree with that. Chris Eubank Jr. is surrounded by a lot of people for him to not know the difference. In my opinion, Nate Vasquez is correct. Chris Eubank Jr. doesn't owe anybody loyalty. But if he wants to stay successful in this boxing world and he wants to remain relevant, he needs to stick to a guy like Nate Vasquez. He knows what he's talking about. He sounds like he knows what he's talking about. And we've seen the difference. If Chris Eubank Jr. keeps running from trainer to trainer, I don't think it's going to end well. But yeah, guys, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button for more videos.